Welcome to this tutorial on HTML for beginners. This is a perfect lesson for you if you are new to computer programming in general or you're new to web development. So we're going to be building a source quote today, and we're going to be doing this completely using the HTML and a bit of CSS. So let's jump into this. Now what I've decided to do in order to make sure you get the best out of this lesson is to make sure that no part of this video will be edited. So when I make mistakes, I'm going to fix my mistakes and fix any bugs live while recording. Why that's important is because bugs are inevitable in computer programming. Errors are inevitable. You're definitely going to have errors no matter how good you become. So never skip the part of the video where you have errors. Hopefully I'm going to make errors, so I'm going to show you how to always fix your errors. All right, let's get started. So what I'm going to do is this. I have a folder that I use, and you have to make sure that you open your folder just when I'm going to open my on VS Code. I'm using VS Code, which is my favorite text editor, and all you have to do is to make sure you have a folder created. Next thing is to click on File, and we are going to go to Open Folder. I already have mine open, but this is the process. So you click on learn coding, like in my own case, then select folder. Now after that, we have to create a HTML file, and the best way to approach that is to simply right click on this empty space. I'm going to right click, new file, and I'll call this sales-quote. Remember, you should never keep a space in between. All right, okay, now you have to make sure you close it up. You could use a dash or underscore. Then I'm going to say .html, which is the extension. All right, so the next thing we have to do is to load a boilerplate. So a boilerplate is simply a set of elements that are common to every single document that you create in HTML. So how do we load a boilerplate? We simply do Shift-1, and it gives us a meta abbreviation, which means that there is a shortcut for that. I'm going to hit enter, and it gives me a boilerplate. Now the title I must change, so I'm going to change that to sales quotes. All right, then now over here, just before we start writing the code, I'd like you to take a look at what we're trying to do. Now what we're trying to do here has this, and it has this. Now, but usually you have to draw it all the way here. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want you to see these things we're trying to do as groups. All right, so if you picture them as groups, it's actually your first step to achieving this. Okay, so this is a group, this is a group, another group, and finally you have this group down here. I want you to have a mental picture of it like this. So usually in computer programming, you don't write your code, then you begin to think. The first step is to think before you write your code. So by mapping out these things like this is a way of helping you to think and have a mental picture of what we are trying to achieve. And mind you, we still have an internal group here. We could say that this one right here, excuse me, we will say that this one here is another group, and this one here is another group, right? Okay, so we could say that this is group A, and this is B, this is C, then C1, then C2. All right, and finally we have group D. So that's how I want you to picture it. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to start by writing group 1. And mind you, all of this is contained within another parent element, right? So we're going to start with that parent element. So we could call that main for the parent element. And now the first group where we have company name and the company address. Okay, so we're going to do that using, we could use a h tree for the company name, let's give a company name instead of that name we have there. So we could say Light Devs Cooperation, and then we're going to have a paragraph here. And by the way, we said that this is a group. You see, I already made a mistake, right? It's not like it's a mistake, but this is not the best approach to get this thing done. So you see, we refer to A as a group. For us to work it out as a group, we have to place all of these within another parent division to hold company name and the address. So we could, as a matter of fact, wrap this within, I'm going to cut it off, then wrap it within a division. Now inside our division, we are going to place those things there. Okay, so now we're going to have here that this is on 45 Texas Road, just some whatever, right? Just a name. Okay, it really doesn't matter. Okay, so then next we're going to have the next division. Okay, so this is sales quote, and we have quote 0135. So again, we are going to make a division for that. Then we'll make a H1, and then we're going to say sales quote. So we have H1 all the way to H6. H1 has the highest level of importance, and H6 has the least level of importance. Okay, then beneath this, I'm going to write a paragraph that says quote #0135. Great. Now we could give classes to this. So what is a class? A class is a unique way to name element. So multiple elements can have the same class name, and what that means is this: if you give same class name to multiple elements, it means that if you ever write CSS code for that particular class name, it's going to be affected on all the elements that bears that class name. Now what we could do here is to say that we want this to be called, we could simply say we want this to be called group A, just like that. Why don't we do -A? That's better. So then here, this is class again, group -B. Now we're going to have group 3, and there's actually a shortcut in VS Code to write a division that has a class, and how you can do that is simply by doing .group -C. It creates a division with a class of that name. Now what is the next thing? So here inside this we have a subgroup of C1 and C2. Okay, so C1 has prepared for, then customer name, and then the street address. Okay, and then we come over to this. All right, great. So let's come back here, and what we're going to do is to write again group -C1. Then down here we're going to have group -C2. Then back here we'll write a paragraph that says prepared for. Then underneath, another paragraph. We could actually use a H3 there because the text is big. I'm going to say the people we are preparing this for is for John Doe group of companies. Okay, then address is going to be Lagos mainland, Lagos state, Nigeria. Great. Now for this part, we have two sets of things that appear to be subgroups. So we have prepared dates. So I can now do away with these annotations I did, right? So I'm going to do away with them. Okay, awesome. So now you see we have this. This is like a group and this is another group, right? So that means we have to make additional subdivisions for this group and this group, prepared date and expiry date. Awesome. So now we head back here. So we have to do another division, but I'm concerned about having so many divisions, right? Okay, so we have division, we have division, we have division. So many times I noticed in my 5 years of experience as an instructor in physical classes, I noticed that this is often something of a concern for new programmers. So because of that, I am going to try a different approach to make sure you don't get confused. So I'm going to remove this. What we could do is to try another element that will get the job done. So in this case, I'm going to use a paragraph, but now within a paragraph, I'm going to have a span. So now I'll give you some rule of thumb here. Okay, so when you make a paragraph, make sure you don't nest a paragraph within a paragraph. No, that's not a good practice. It's a terrible practice. So what you could do is to keep a span within a paragraph. Okay, but now there's going to be another challenge that will be presented to us by doing this, and that is the fact that the span elements are actually inline display elements. And what that means is this. I'm going to show you shortly. Prepared for is that supposed to be what we should, is that what we should have there? It's not prepared for, it's prepared date. All right, prepare date, and beneath we're gonna have a date right there. So it was prepared today, 17th May 2025. Now what about the next one? We could actually add a class here that says title, and we add another class here that says info. Great. And then we could actually copy this and paste, or perhaps we'll duplicate. How do you duplicate in VS Code? You simply hold the Shift and Alt key together and then press arrow key down. It duplicates that for you. So, and then we're going to have here expiry date. Expiry date, we will set it to a month from now, 16th June 2025. Great. So what do we have to do next? Now what we have to do next is to work on this table right here. Okay, great. So now notice this. Before we continue, why don't we take a look at what we've done so far on the browser? So I'm going to head back here, save my changes, then I'm going to copy path, and I'm going to open my browser. I'm going to use Brave. It's going to be Brave. Then I'm going to paste it right there and hit enter, and there we go. So now notice this. I was trying to talk about this, how that the date should be sitting underneath prepared date. But now notice what we have here. In our own case, we have the date sitting side by side with prepared date. And why is that so? The reason why we have that is because this and this are both inline elements. So span is an inline element. And what that means is this. Inline element can allow another inline element to sit on the same row with them. Unlike block display elements, examples of block display elements are divisions, paragraphs, main. These are block display elements. And what's the special thing about them? The special thing about them is that they don't allow any other element to sit on the same row with them, except we use CSS to work around it. All right, so but since we've decided to use inline display elements here, we can still use CSS to force this one to come to the next line. and we're going to take a look at that when we get to CSS. Okay, so where are we right now? What we have to do next is to work on this table. Notice what we have here. We have a table head, we have a table body. All of this constitutes table body, and on the all of this constitutes 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So we're going to start by writing a table, then table head. Inside table head, we fill up this information, then we come to table body. All right, let's jump into that. So at the end of this division, which represents group C, you have to be careful. If you nest it within this division, you're going to have a problem. So all you have to do to make sure you know where this ends is to click on the division, then you trace this line, see where it takes you to. It takes you to this one. So all you have to do is make your table down there. So make a table, and within the table we're going to make table head. So T head. Now inside T head we are going to have a single row that represents this, right? Okay, so what do? We're going to make table row, and inside table row we're going to make table data. Table data represents this is a table data, this and this and this. So these are individual table data, so we're going to have 4 of them. So we head back here and we're going to say TD, meaning table data, and we going to have item, and over here table data again we are going to have quantity, and table data again we're going to have price, and over here table data once again we're going to have total, I believe. All right, great. So we're going to save changes once again, head over to our browser, refresh. Great, we have that item, quantity, price and total. Awesome. Now what we have to do is to fill up data beneath them, and once we've done that we are going to jump into styling, and at the end of the day this is going to be looking pretty good and well structured. All right, so let's fill up this data. So we could actually add some more realistic data instead of writing item 1 and so on. So back here we're going to do table body, and inside table body we need to make a row. I'll show you what that means. So we need to make this one. To make this we have to write a row that is going to contain every single thing on that row, right? So now all we have to do is to write table row, and there we're going to have table data. So what did we sell? We sold we could say that we sold a laptop and phones and all of that. Okay, I have to switch on my socket. Okay, so I'm going to say that we sold a Lenovo laptop for programmers. Great, I like that. Okay, and after that TD, what is the price we sold it for? So quantity first, so we're following this order. So we have item, quantity, price and so on. So we're gonna quantity we sold, let's just say we sold 10, right? Okay, and then TD again. Price for 1, we could say we sold 1 for $300, right? That makes sense, huh? So TD again for the last one, total. So 10 times $300, that gives us $3,000. So we're gonna say $3,000. Awesome. Now we would do this again. We could simply duplicate this. All right, so we're gonna say we sold a maybe Samsung Galaxy A56 phone, and we could say we sold 20 units of this. And the price for 1, what could be the price? This could be maybe $400. not so sure. Then total, that gives us, is going to be what? 20 times 400, that gives us $8,000, right? Okay, awesome. Let's do one more. And we could say that we sold a boiler condenser mic, and we sold, say, 2 units of that, and one was for maybe $120, and now this is going to give us $240. Awesome. Now, final thing we have here is the total, and the total is sitting up by itself. Now, remember, the approach to solving problems in computer programming is to think before you write your code, not write your code then you think. No, it's the other way around. It should be you think, you try to figure it out in your mind, then after that you put down your code. So what do you think we could do? Think about this. Should we make empty table data, one table data, another table data, another table data, and we don't just fill up anything there, right? And then on the last one we add up something that could work, right? Oh, I believe that's the best approach, but there are of course other ways around it. So what we're gonna do is to duplicate this, right? And since this last one is special, we could add a class or ID. Let's use an ID, because whatever we want to name it is not going to be used again. So because of that, we choose an ID. So we could say that this is total section. Just say sec. All right, good. Did I duplicate it? Yes, I did. Now we would remove the content, and these two is only the last we're going to keep. All right, so let's add these things up. So we have $3,000 plus 8, that gives us $11,240, $11,240. Great job. So now let's see what we have on the browser. So here we refresh, and there we go. Now let's get to styling it using CSS. We have managed to achieve the structure of this document using HTML, okay, or the sales invoice. Now what we have to do is to use CSS to style it to look just great. Now, you see on default we have spacings here, spacings, and so on. We don't want any of those spacings. So what we're going to do is to create a CSS file and remove those spacings and then begin to style. So there are multiple ways to add CSS to your HTML document. We could add style here, and it's not bad really. But my concern is that by the time we'll have several lines of code within this style, it's going to start looking clumsy or cumbersome for a beginner. A beginner will start seeing several lines of code on the same document, and I really don't want you to be confused at all. So because of that, I'm going to create a separate file or document for the CSS. And the best approach to do that is to create a CSS file. But the CSS file is not mandatory, but it's a good practice. So I will right click on this empty space here, new folder, and I'm going to say CSS. And inside this, on the CSS folder, I will right click. Now I have quite a number of experiences with this when it has to do with students. Many times the student, they didn't create the file I'm about to create within the folder, and if they don't do that, referencing it becomes a difficult thing. So I need you to right click on the CSS folder, then you're going to choose new file. Then let's give this a name. We're going to give it the same name as the HTML sales quote, but this time it's going to be .css. Great. Now that we have created a CSS file, we need to reference that CSS file within the HTML document. How do you do that? How you can do that is simply by doing here on the head element, you're going to say link : CSS In this way, you are adding a link that is specifically meant for adding a CSS document to your HTML. So you're going to press enter, and now we will remove this one here and add ours. So where is our CSS folder? Think about it. Our CSS folder is inside a folder, I meant to say, where is our CSS file? And I wanted you to think about it. Our CSS file is within the CSS folder. Okay, so that means we have to reference this folder called CSS before we reference our file called sales quote. So we say CSS/. Now, this is a time to check if you're doing this right. By the time you do /, if your file popped out right there, it means you did it right. If it didn't pop out, I would like you to pause the video and undo your folder and file creation for these two. Simply delete them. Delete the folder, delete the file. Okay? That means you have taken care of the problem, and now solution is you do it again. Go back to when I created mine, watch what I did, and do it again. But if you have yours popping out, it means you did it just right. Okay, so now just by adding CSS doesn't mean anything is going to change on your browser. So let's refresh. Nothing changed, but we can confirm if the CSS is working. What do? We could simply change the background color of the whole document. So I'm going to column body, and I'm going to set the background. Notice what I did. So by the time I reference, I did body like this, column body. It means I am referencing an element called body. That's the meaning. Now, by introducing curly bracket, it means that I want to write some set of rules for the styling. I want to mention specific things I want to achieve in styling body. In this case, I simply want background color to change to black. We just want to see if it's working, right? So I save changes and I refresh. Great. So if yours didn't turn black, I want you once again to pause the video and undo the changes you made that has to do with CSS, and just watch again how I did it and do yours. Once you've achieved that, you continue. Okay, great. Remember, errors are bound to appear. Okay, so you just have to take care of errors every single time they show up. Now back to this. So I'm going to remove these. Now let's take care of these spacings that we didn't add that are showing up. We don't want these spacings between, all of the spacings. We didn't add them. We don't want them. So we have to remove them and write every single thing the way we want it, right? So how do we take care of those? What we have to do is write asterisk. In computer programming, asterisk could mean different things. It could mean multiplication. It could mean everything. Okay, in this case, by doing asterisk, it means everything. And I'm going to do curly bracket, and I'm going to say that I want padding to be 0, and I want margin to be 0. Now before we continue, I'm going to have to explain to you what padding means and what margin means. Now let's take a look at this. Let's say that we have this block like this, and then we have this block like this. Now let's talk about padding. So you see, between the top of the letter and the border above, we have just a little white space, right? If we add padding to this black container, it means that we are saying that, hey, I want my content, the black box is saying, I want my content to move away from my edges by certain dimensions, maybe 20 pixels. So padding targets the content. It makes the content move away from the borders. What about margin? Now let's say we applied margin on this block, and we say we want margin bottom to be, say, 40 pixels. The meaning of that is this: this box at the top is saying that, hey, whatever is at my bottom should move 40 pixels away from me. So that means that margin targets external, its surrounding environment, right? Whatever is next to it externally, it says move away from me. Now, by doing margin and padding to 0, we're simply going to remove any space that was added for us by the browser. And when we refresh, all of the spacings are gone. Now let's take a look at this. So first thing we have here, company name and this. So the text here is smaller, this one is bigger. It looks like that's already achieved, but then we have quite a very big space here before we get here. All right, so we need to add this space, and then this space we also have here, and this one here. So let's take care of this one first of all, okay, and this one at the top, okay. All right, so how do we do that? Now we have to target the parent container holding everybody, in this case main. So over here we would reference the main element and say that we want padding, so we can target both top and bottom, right and left, by doing this. So if we say 40 pixels space 120 pixels, why don't I do 160? 160 pixels. The meaning of this is this: 40 pixels is for top and bottom, while 160 pixels is for right and left. That is the meaning of that. So now I would head back here, refresh my browser, and we have this. Now the reason you can't really tell if it's affected on the right hand side is because we've not forced maybe this table to span all the way to the right, and when we do that, you're going to notice it doesn't get all the way to the end. So we have taken care of padding. Now what about this? In this one we have quite some space here, so we need to take care of that. All we have to do is to reference, think about it, what do we need to reference? We need to reference group 1 class and add a margin bottom to it. So over here, how do we reference a class? So how we do that is by simply doing dot, then you reference the name of the class, in this case group A. So I'm going to say group dash A, then I'm going to say that I want margin, I want margin bottom, so that's going to be margin dash bottom. I want it to be, that should be around maybe 220 pixels maybe. So then I refresh. No, that's way too much. So we have to reduce that to what do you think? Maybe 120. Then now we check that out again. Looks like 8, but it's still a little too much. I'm going to leave it at 100. So we have achieved that. Okay, great. So let's take a look at this again. Okay, not bad. Now we come to this is going to be quite big, and then this color is different, so we head over to that. By the way, let's see what it looks like right now. It's actually big, but we just need to make this color to be something that looks like that one. I think that should be Oddlace, the color name. Then we'll make it slightly bigger. Let's try that. Then of course we set a margin bottom to that. So, and that is going to be group B2. So we head over here, dot group B2. So what's the first thing we need to do? So we're going to say that we want margin bottom to be, that's probably 48, maybe 48, and refresh. That's too much. Let's try 32. Okay, we'll leave it at this. Now we increase the font size of this and change the color. So, but how do you reference that? Why that question is important is because of this. So over here, you have this, it's written in the paragraph. But if you simply reference a paragraph to style on the CSS document, it's also going to target this paragraph here and this paragraph here and all the other paragraphs, and we don't want that. So how do we make sure that we are referencing just this particular paragraph? Now notice something. This paragraph is a child of this div that has a class of b2. So we could simply say on the CSS that we are trying to reference a paragraph that happens to be a child of group b2. How do you write that code? So over here, you're going to say group b, then this. Now the meaning of this is this. It means that p is a child of group b2. Now we can then head over here and start by increasing the font size. We do that by doing font the size, and we're going to set this to, I think that should be somewhere around 20 pixels. We can always adjust it if it's not perfect. And then we set the color, the text color. So there's no such a thing as font dash color. Okay, no, there's no such thing. So you simply say color, and then we're going to set it to old lace. I think that's going to be too light, but anyways, let's check that out. Yeah, that's too light. So what are we going to do? We have to look for colors on the web. So you can always search for HTML color codes. Yeah, there's a website for that. And this HTML color codes, quite useful. Yeah. So what color is close? Maybe this, right? Or this one, I think. So then I'm going to copy the hex color code, which is the easiest to use. And now I will simply remove this and paste it right there. Then I save changes and now refresh. Oh, great. It's looking like it. It's coming alive. Now, what's the next thing we need to do? So we need to make sure that this sits on the left and this sits on the right. And we have to use flex box to take care of that. So what flex is going to do for us is that it's going to allow us to place things just how we want it. If I want something to sit on the left and the other part of it to sit on the right, I could either use grid or use flex to do that. But in this case, we're going to be using flex. It fits just perfectly. So now, the rule of thumb for using flex is that when applying flex, you have to make sure that you're writing flex on the parent element of the things you're trying to target. In this case, we're trying to target C1 and C2. So that means the flex box code should be written on C, which is our parent, right? Now I head over here. I'm going to say dot group, that's C. What do I want? I want the display to be set to flex. Now on default, flex direction is usually set on row on default. What that means is this. Once you say flex, everything you're trying to flex is going to be sitting on a row, but you can change it to sit on a column if you want, but we want this to be a row, so that is why we just have to leave it the way it is. So in this case, if I save changes, notice what's going to happen. It's going to do something, but it's not going to be perfect. So I refresh. You see what that does, right? This now comes to the right hand side, but we need it to go all the way to the right hand side here. So how do we do that? We will have to do that by doing justify content, and we'll have to use space between. So it's just going to force the both of them to sit at their extreme ends, at the very beginning and at the extreme end. So we save changes, we refresh, and it does just that. Now that's beautiful. So what is the next thing we need to do? We need to make a space, which is a margin. Okay, we need to set a margin here. Then after that, we come to this and this one. All right, so it looks like the margin here is the same as this. So we have to take note of the margin we already applied here and apply the same here. So now let's go back and find it. So we should just copy it. Copy that, place it here, save. Then we refresh. Great. Now what is the next? We make this one small, right? Then we do a little margin next to it, underneath it. Okay, so just like we have here. Okay, so how do we target that? We need to target a P that is a child of C1. Okay, so over here, dot group C1, then a paragraph that is a child. I'm going to set the font size. Let's try 12 pixels. We need it to be bold. To make it bold, we're going to do font dash weight, and we set that to bold. Now let's save changes again and refresh. Okay, great, not bad. But now we need to add a little margin, and we're going to say margin dash bottom. We will set that to 16 pixels. We'll refresh. Looks like 16 pixels is too much, so we're going to reduce this to 8. Yeah, looks like it. Now what about this? This one is bolded. We don't want this to be bolded, so what do we need to do? So it is bolded. Is that not bolded? It is. This is a paragraph and this is a paragraph. You see that? So how do we take care of this problem? We could change this to small. All right. Yep. Now that problem is fixed. What about this? We need this to sit beneath, and then we need prepared dates to be small, expiry date to be small, then this date will also sit beneath. Now, remember I told you that span elements are inline display element, and to force this one to sit at the bottom, what we just have to do is to change our display type to block. Remember I told you that block elements don't allow another element to sit on the same row with them. So I would have to reference the span that happens to be a descendant of C2. Now, I just mentioned descendant, not child, because P is a child of this, but this is a child of P. So that means span is not a direct child of division. It's actually a descendant. So how do we reference a descendant? Okay, so what we have to do is to say, mind you, that's group C2. So I'm going to say dot group C2. We simply make a space, then span. That space means descendant selector. So now I'm going to set display from inline. It's currently at inline. Okay, so we have to change it to block. Now I save changes, and now it forces it to come down. Awesome. But now I need a space between this and the next one. How do we take care of that? What we have to do, let's take a look at this first. You see we have a space here, okay, and this, the one above is bolded, and the one beneath is not bolded, and they are not as big as this. All right, so what are we going to do? Let's start with the spacing. So notice this, P and P. We could give this one a special class, then set a margin bottom, but we've done something like that already. So let's explore this opportunity to learn something we haven't learned so far, right? So we could turn this one to a flex box and make the items to flow in a column that is vertically. Then we can then make a gap between those two items flowing vertically, right? Okay, so let's head over here. So I would like to reference group C2 above, right? Group dash C2, and now I'm going to set display to flex, but this time we have to change the default direction to column. So we're going to say flex dash direction. We're going to set it to column, and it really doesn't change a thing. It's just going to same thing, right? But why did we do this? We did this so that we could add a gap a gap separating the both of them. So now I'm going to say gap. What do you think this gap is going to be? I'd like you to pause the video, think about it, and tell me. I think this is going to be I think this is going to be 10 pixels or 8 pixels. It's looking the same as this. So I'm going to try 8 pixels. Then I refresh. It's more than 8 pixels. So I'm going to try 12. So I refresh that and it's looking just like that. Now next thing is to reduce the font size of this one and bold it, and also reduce the font size of this. So we could just reduce the font size of everything here, then later we'll target these ones to bold them. Now how do we go about that? Let's take a look at the HTML. So we could just target the P that are children, or the P's that are children of group C2, and reduce our font sizes. By the time we do that, it will be targeting all of this and all of this. So yeah. Or notice what we already did. We actually added a class here called title. We could simply just reference that class called title, and that is it. That's a better method. So here we're going to say title. We want the font size to be 12 pixels, and we want it to be bolded. Font weight bold. Refresh. Great. Right, we could still reduce it a bit. I'm gonna stick with 10 pixels. I hope that's not too small. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, then this one we would reduce. We will also reduce this one to 10, but we're not going to bold, right? So now we call that one info. Over here, dot info, we simply say font dash size 10 pixels. Refresh. I think it's too small. Let's increase the both of them to 12. I can actually highlight this and also target this. So once I highlight the first one, I'll do Control D on Windows. Then if I write here, it will change in both of them. 12. Once I'm done writing, I'm going to have to press the escape key twice. Oh, just once, please. Then it disables it. Then refresh. And there we go. Now, the last part we have to deal with is the table. Okay, so now I'm going to take this color I used here and apply it just like this. Then this last part, set it to gray. Okay, so now let's come to the HTML and take a look at what we did. So I'll simply have to apply that background color on the table head or the table row, but I'll do it on the table head. So I'm going to get that color. Where is it? This is it. So I'm going to copy that, then head over here, and I'm going to do T head. Notice we didn't have to do dot. Why? Could you answer the question? Think about it. Why didn't we do a dot? Now refer back to this. Do you see that? So T head is not a class. T head is an element. So when referencing an element within CSS, you don't need the dot. Dot is for the class. So now we can continue. And I'm going to set a background color and paste that thing right there. So then I come back here, refresh. Nice. So now we have to make the table to span all the way to the right hand side. By the way, this text here, I just noticed that this text, they were actually right aligned. Do you see that? They are aligned to the right hand side. So we have to take care of that before we continue. So all we need to do is over here, we're going to say text dash align. We're going to say right. We are going to apply the same here. Text dash align right. Let's check that out. Refresh. Oops, it worked for this and this, but it didn't work for this one. Let's find out why that is so. So let's see, what did I do? So I did here. Oh, do you see that? I missed the T. So T. Okay, great, awesome, working. Now we head back to the table. We need to make this table to stretch itself to get to the right hand side. And all we need to do is to work on the width, right? So we're going to reference table here again. And we're going to set the width to 100% of the parent width. Okay, good. It forces it to go all the way there. All right. Now let's take a look at this. Now, did you notice this? This one, the height is much more than what we have. So we need to force this height to be bigger. So I could effect that on the table data. So I like to target the closest thing to the data, to the items, that is the information or the data. Okay, so in this case, table data. If I apply it on table row, I'm going to achieve it anyways, but I think I want to deal as closest as I can to the actual data. So for that, I'll be applying it on the table data element. So now over here, I'm going to say table data. I would have to set a height, and that height, should I use a height or padding? Now this is why I asked a question. Both of them could achieve it, but sometimes you could get it done, but then a problem will be introduced. So as a programmer, you're thinking of what solution can I apply that will get the job done but will not give rise to another problem. So let's say I do 48 pixels, let's see, and I refresh. That's working, right? Okay, good. I could actually reduce it to 44 pixels. Now it's working. But what about another way? What if I use padding for this? Let's see if that's gonna work. So if I use padding, top and bottom, let's do top and bottom 6 pixels. I think that would be too small, but let's just see. Then right and left, we could do 4 pixels. Let's see. I refresh. That is actually working. So how we can confirm it's working is, let's increase this one all the way to 16. Now you see that is working. So now you have 2 methods to achieve this. Which would I stick with? I think I'm gonna keep this one. Right? Not bad after all, right? So, but I have to reduce this to 12 pixels. All right, let's keep this. Now notice something. We have this line here. It's not like a line, so to say. It's just making it's just separating this from this, and we don't want that. We want to take full control of what is going on here. What we could do to achieve this, and let me show you something else. What if I set a background color of red, just to show you something to this? Can you see the line also is here? It's not a line, it's separating this here, this. I really don't want that, so I want to take full control of what is going on. Okay, so I could do I'll remove this. I'm gonna do table that should be border collapse. I'm gonna set it to collapse. Refresh that. Great, it's gone. Now I have full control. Alright, so what is the next thing I have to do? Next thing I have to do is this. I want to set, let's see what we have here. There's actually a faint line here and here. Okay, so how do I achieve all of that? line, line. Okay, what if I simply add a border to all the table data? Let's see. So I am going to all the table data. I'm going to add border 1 pixels, meaning you want it as thick as 1 pixels. Solid means you don't want there is dotted. Okay, if you use dotted, the lines will be dotted. There is another one dashed. It means the lines will be dashed, but we don't want that. We want this solid thing. So solid, then now we use the same color. So refresh. Now see what we have. Now that's great. Okay, but then we need the line also to appear here and here and here. So if you notice this one we have here, it looks like this is gray. These lines are gray. Yeah, it's similar to this, is gray. So because of that, we're gonna switch this to gray and we'll refresh. That's a strong color. I think we need a better color. So we head back to HTML color codes. Let's try this color. Copy that. I clicked on this one, I think. Then save that and refresh again. Now this is better, right? This is better. Now, but notice the last one. On the last one, there are no borders. These are programming challenges, and I like it. So programming helps you use computer programming to solve problems. So, and we have a problem right here before us. We don't have border here, here, and here. So what exactly should we do to make that possible? By the way, there's a background color, okay, the same gray here, but then we don't have this and this and this. Now see, once we add a background color here, it's gonna hide this margin here and here. Yeah, that's it. That's the solution. So, but how do we target the very last table row? What we could do, there are multiple ways around this. Oh, we already took care of it. See what we did. We added an ID. You see that? That's a good job we did at the very beginning. So over here, I'm going to come back to this. Let's take note of this. We have to reference it exactly as it appears here. So how do we reference an ID? We're going to do that by doing pound or hash. Okay, then we're going to say total dash sec. And what are we going to do? We're going to set a background color to the same color we just dealt with and refresh. Now that is awesome. So we just achieved it, and of course I expect that you're going to have challenges while trying to complete yours. It may not be as smooth as mine, and I also had challenges anyways. But remember, it's common with computer programming. Be patient with yourself, and if you had challenges along the line, you can always pause the video, undo what you did until you return to the part that was working. That's a good way to debug. If you had a problem, all you had to do is roll it back. Just keep undoing until you land yourself to a part where everything seems perfect. Then you start building up from there once again. And please post your questions on the comment sections, and I'll try as much as I can to attend to all of the comments. Thank you.